So 1864 was the year when forests suddenly became a government property. As you all know, 1864 it was not our government. 1864 was British government. Yet British government, when it revised the Forest Act in 1878, the Madras governor sought feedback from revenue officers in various places. And in those days, deputy collectors used to be Indian, collectors used to be British. So some deputy collectors from Nellore and some other areas in Madras Presidency, they wrote back to the governor that in Indian tradition, forests were never a government property. For example, if you tax a house, the house is not owned by government. There can be house tax, but house belongs to the house owner or the person who lives in that house. Similarly, if you take taxes from people for grazing or for usufruct from the forest doesn't become a government property. But the 1864 legislation did that. Again in 1878 and 1927 these things happened. So about 6 to 7 generations of forest dwelling people suffered injustice because of these colonial laws which deprived them of survival rights. What were their survival rights? They used to till the land, they used to cultivate the lands, they used to graze their cattle, their pigs, their goats, their camels, their other animals. They used to collect fruit, root, other food from the forest. They used to collect firewood. They used to take wood from the jungle to build their houses. And how much wood would they take? We studied it in a few villages and we found that if teak wood is used for building a house, one family usually takes out teak wood only once in lifetime, because a teak wood house survives for more than 100 years. So unless a young man and woman want to build their own house, they don't take out any timber from the forest. So this was judicious extraction from the forest. This never harmed the forest. Even hunting by tribes and forest dwelling people was for food. Hunting was not for fun. It was the hunters from British royalty and other Indian royalty during the British days who required game reserves. The idea of reserved forest came from game reserves, where they wanted to kill game species like tigers and lions. The tribes and forest dwelling people never killed tigers and lions. So save tiger was their mantra even 6 generations ago. Indian Parliament recognized this in 2006 and a law was passed called the Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Recognition of Forest Rights Act. This act recognizes the existing rights, the rights that have existed since centuries. It doesn't give new rights. It simply recognizes existing rights. And what are those rights? There are some individual rights like farming, grazing, collection of forest produce, and there are community rights. Community rights to protect the community forest resources, to protect, to manage, to conserve, to rejuvenate the forest wealth, and which the community has been doing for last many generations. All these rights were recognized by this law passed by the Parliament in 2008. And what did people get out of it? People, for the first time in 6-7 generations, were freed from the threat to their livelihood from Forest Department. And what would Forest Department do? Typically, just before harvest, the farms would be destroyed. If you have been a farmer or if you have been close to any farmer, you would know the mind of a farmer that is so involved in his crop. And when the crop is ready for harvesting, if there are bulldozers and other things coming in and destroying your crop, what would happen to your mind? What would happen to your livelihood? What would happen to your survival? So this threat always remained on the minds and lives of forest dwellers for more than 6 generations. This Forest Rights Act, for the first time after such a long gap, recognized that people required these rights for survival. All over the country, this act was implemented and people started getting individual rights. But the most wonderful part of this act was the community forest resource rights, where people would get, a community would get rights to forest resource around the village. This resource they would always depend upon as their long-term fixed deposits. because they can get everything from such forest resource which their farms perhaps cannot give them. Farms can fall prey to a truant monsoon or some other natural calamities, but forest provides food throughout the year without drudgery. So this is the amazing part of having a forest around the village, and people always treasure such forest. There are traditions of conservation which were strengthened by this law, because the traditions then became the law for many such villages where people came together to conserve their community forests. But if you see the All India picture, the picture is gloomy on the part of its implementation. The governments have been so lethargic implementing this act. The forest department, the forest bureaucracies of almost all states, barring a few exceptions, have always resisted the implementation of this act. Think of this law where the recipient of rights is a semi-literate, poorest person who doesn't know how to fill a paper, how to attach evidences, and on the other side you see a bureaucracy that is strengthened by its funds, by its training, by its even brute force of the forest department. And on one side you have this all-powerful department, on another side you have this meek tribal population which cannot assert its rights on a paper. And this law required that they assert their rights. So wherever there were organizations, Jana Sangatans and some other organizations that supported the people in acquiring their rights, the law did wonders. I mean, probably everybody around the country knows the example of Mendalekha in Gadchiroli, and there are hundreds of other villages which have conserved thousands of acres of forest because of these rights. Another part of this is that this act has done a revolutionary change in the distribution of wealth. Now, this is something to understand. This is the economics of Forest Rights Act. When these Gram Sabhas or the village assemblies of tribal villages got community forest resource rights, what they actually got was the wealth around them could be managed and its dividend could be earned by the people. So the poorest of villages suddenly made crores of rupees by judicial harvest from the forests. So for example, Mendalekha sold bamboo worth 1.5 crores in 1 year, and it's a small village of 100 families. So consider 1.5 crore distributed over 100 families, and it was a life-changing thing for them. And what happened to the forest? Was it destroyed? It wasn't destroyed, because people knew that this was their wealth to be conserved for generations ahead. And Mendalekha is not an exception anymore. There are about 500, 600 villages all over the country which have been conserving and getting dividends from the forest. So what happened because of community forest rights is we became a better democracy with strong village institutions, and we also became a stronger economy where the wealth is distributed over a large mass of people.